Billionaire rejected her for being too poor to meet his family's standards. Beckett Langford's hand trembled as he stared at the 5-year-old girl standing in his boardroom. The child looked directly at him with eyes that mirrored his own. "You're my daddy, aren't you?" The little girl's voice cut through the silence like a knife. Beckett couldn't form words. His throat had closed completely. Sloane Hartley stepped forward, her Armani suit crisp and her voice colder than winter. "Answer her, Beckett. Or is this too uncomfortable for you? Having to face the daughter you never knew existed because 6 years ago, you decided a mechanic's daughter wasn't good enough for the Langford name?" "I didn't know." Beckett's voice cracked. "Sloane, I swear I didn't know about her. Would it have mattered?" Sloane's amber eyes blazed with barely contained fury. "If I'd reached you that day when I came to your office, pregnant and terrified, would you have chosen differently? Or would your mother have convinced you I was just another gold digger trying to trap you?" The little girl tugged on Sloane's sleeve. "Mommy, why is he crying?" "Because, sweetheart, sometimes people realize too late what they've lost." Sloane knelt beside her daughter, never breaking eye contact with Beckett. "Sometimes people throw away everything that matters because they're too weak to stand up for what's right." Beckett sank into his chair, the weight of 6 years crashing down on him. The boardroom he'd commanded for years suddenly felt like a courtroom, and he was about to receive his sentence. "I own 51% of this company, Beckett." Sloane stood, straightening her jacket. "The shares you've been trying to buy for 3 years? They're mine. Remington Holdings. That's me. Sloane Remington Hartley. The full name you never bothered to learn. My mother's family, the Remingtons, are worth substantially more than your family ever was. But you judged me by my father's grease-stained overalls and our Chicago apartment." She placed a document on the table in front of him. "Here's my offer. You resign as CEO. I take over. You get to stay on as Chief Innovation Officer. I'll license you the patents you desperately need for your autonomous vehicle division at triple the market rate. And if you're very, very lucky, and if you prove yourself worthy, I might let you be part of our daughter's life. You have 48 hours to decide." The little girl waved at the frozen executives in the room. "Bye-bye, everyone. My name is Bryn Hartley. I'm 5 3/4. Now, before I tell you how we got here, let me ask you something. Have you ever been rejected by someone who thought they were too good for you? Have you ever watched someone underestimate you, only to live to regret it? What would you do if the person who shattered your heart suddenly needed you to survive? This is a story about judgment, redemption, and the kind of karma that doesn't forget. If you love stories where the underdog rises and the powerful fall, where second chances are earned through blood, sweat, and tears, hit that like button right now and subscribe to Mr. Stevens Stories. Trust me, you won't want to miss how this unfolds. Because what you're about to hear is proof that the people you underestimate today might be the ones holding your future tomorrow. Let's go back to where it all started. Back to the day Beckett Langford made the biggest mistake of his life. 6 years earlier, Beckett sat in a cafe downtown, staring at his untouched espresso. Across from him sat Sloane Hartley, the woman he'd been dating for 2 years. The woman he'd talked about marrying. The woman who made him laugh harder than anyone else ever had. The woman he was about to break. Sloane was dressed carefully that day. A blue sundress that brought out her eyes. Her long auburn hair fell in waves over her shoulders. She had news to share, something important, something that made her heart race with a mixture of terror and hope. But Beckett spoke first. "My mother has some concerns." He couldn't meet her eyes. "About our compatibility." Sloane's hand moved instinctively to her stomach, where a secret was growing. A secret that would now have to wait. Compatibility? What does that mean? Your background, Sloane. It's just so different from ours. He finally looked up, and what she saw in his eyes was worse than anger or disgust. It was pity. You're an incredible person. You're kind and smart and talented. But the Langford name comes with responsibilities. Expectations. Sloane felt her world tilting. Say what you really mean, Beckett. My wife will need to navigate high society. Charity galas. Board meetings. Political fundraisers. She'll need the right background, the right connections, the right. He trailed off. The right pedigree. Sloane's voice was barely a whisper. Your mother thinks a mechanic's daughter from the South Side isn't good enough. That's not what I said. But it's what you mean. Sloane stood on legs that threatened to give out beneath her. Let me ask you something, Beckett. What do you think? Not your mother. You. Do you think I'm not good enough? The silence stretched between them like a chasm. Sloane, it's not about being good enough. It's about being realistic. My family has certain standards, certain traditions. Answer the question. Her voice was stronger now, fueled by a rage that was just beginning to bloom. Do you think I'm not good enough for you? Beckett looked down at his untouched espresso. His silence was the only answer she needed. Sloane pulled off the promise ring he'd given her 6 months earlier. She placed it on the table between them with a sharp click. I hope your family's standards keep you warm at night, Beckett. I hope they make you happy. I hope they're enough. She walked out of that cafe and into the pouring rain. She walked 17 blocks to her father's garage, her dress soaking through, her makeup running, her heart shattering with every step. Daniel Hartley found his daughter 3 hours later, still sitting in the corner of his workshop, still in her wet dress, staring at nothing. Baby girl, what happened? He knelt beside her, his work-worn hands gentle on her shoulders. Sloane couldn't form the words. How could she explain that the man she loved had thrown her away like garbage? How could she tell her father that his profession, his honest work, his blue-collar life, had been deemed insufficient by people who wouldn't know real work if it hit them in the face? Her mother arrived an hour later. Catherine Hartley was elegant in a way that had always seemed at odds with their modest Chicago apartment. She had a refinement that Sloane had never quite understood, a way of moving through the world that suggested she'd come from somewhere else entirely. Catherine took one look at her daughter and understood. Tell me. She sat beside Sloane, wrapping an arm around her shaking shoulders. And Sloane broke. She told her mother about Beckett, about his mother's concerns, about being rejected for not being good enough. She told her about the promise ring being reclaimed, about the humiliation, about the pity in his eyes. What she didn't tell her mother, not yet, was about the pregnancy test she'd taken that morning. The positive result that had filled her with joy and terror in equal measure. The news she'd planned to share over dinner that evening. Catherine held her daughter while she sobbed. Then, when the tears finally slowed, Catherine's expression transformed from gentle to fierce. She pulled out her phone and made a call. Uncle Montgomery, it's Catherine. I need to invoke the family trust. For my daughter. Sloane looked up, confused. What are you talking about? Catherine's accent shifted slightly as she spoke on the phone, becoming crisper, more refined. Yes, the full amount. Transfer authority to Sloane Remington Hartley. She paused, listening. No, I'll explain to her myself. Thank you, Uncle. She ended the call and turned to her daughter. There's something I've never told you, sweetheart. Something I've kept hidden because I wanted you to grow up knowing your worth wasn't in a bank account or a last name. Catherine took a deep breath. My full name is Catherine Remington. I'm the youngest daughter of the Remington family. Boston industrialists. My family has been in steel, shipping, and manufacturing since before the Civil War. Sloane stared at her mother like she'd grown a second head. What? I met your father during a summer in Chicago. I was supposed to be learning the family business, attending the right parties, marrying the right man from the right family. Instead, I fell in love with a mechanic who treated me like a person instead of a dynasty. Catherine smiled at the memory. My family was horrified. They gave me a choice. Him or them. You chose Dad. I chose love. I chose real life over empty legacy. I changed my name, walked away from that world, and never looked back. Catherine's eyes hardened. But I never gave up my inheritance rights. I just never accessed them. I wanted you to grow up normal, grounded, knowing that your value came from who you are, not what you have. Mom, why are you telling me this now? Because a boy from New Money just rejected my daughter for not having what his family only recently acquired. Because you need to understand that you don't need anyone's approval. You never did. Catherine pulled out her tablet and showed Sloane a series of documents. This is your birthright. The Remington Family Trust. Your inheritance. You're worth more than the Langfords could earn in 3 generations. Sloane looked at the numbers on the screen. Her vision blurred. This can't be real. It's very real, baby. And we're going to use every penny of it to make sure you never need anyone's approval again. Catherine's smile was sharp as a blade. We're going to build something that makes the Langfords look like children playing at business. That's when Sloane told her mother about the pregnancy. Catherine's response was immediate. Then we build it for her. Or him. We build a legacy for your child. A legacy based on innovation and merit, not outdated social hierarchies. 2 weeks later, Sloane gathered her courage and went to Langford Global headquarters. The building was all glass and steel, soaring into the Chicago skyline like a monument to wealth and power. She felt out of place in the marble lobby, her sensible shoes clicking on floors that probably cost more than her car. She approached the reception desk. I need to see Beckett Langford, please. It's urgent. The receptionist barely looked up. Do you have an appointment? No, but if you could just tell him Sloane is here. The receptionist's phone rang. She held up one finger and answered. Langford Global, how may I direct your call? Sloane waited, her hand unconsciously moving to her stomach. She was 8 weeks along. She'd confirmed it with her doctor yesterday. She had to tell Beckett. Whatever had happened between them, he deserved to know he was going to be a father. The receptionist hung up and finally looked at Sloane properly. Name? Sloane Hartley. I'm here to see Beckett Langford. The woman typed something into her computer. I don't see you on his calendar. Mr. Langford is currently in Tokyo closing an important deal. He's not accepting visitors. Could you call his assistant? Please. It's really important. The receptionist sighed with theatrical annoyance but picked up the phone. Hello, this is lobby reception. There's a Sloane Hartley here requesting to see Mr. Langford. A pause. The receptionist's expression shifted to something colder. I see. Yes, I'll let her know. She hung up and looked at Sloane with barely concealed disdain. Mr. Langford's assistant says he's left explicit instructions not to be disturbed by anyone from his past life. He's focusing on his future with the company and has no time for personal matters. The phrase past life hit Sloane like a physical blow. Could you just give him a message? Tell him I really need to speak with him. It's urgent. I've given you the message I was asked to deliver, miss. If you don't have an appointment, I'll have to ask you to leave. Sloane stood there in that gleaming lobby, one hand on her stomach, tears threatening to spill. She thought about making a scene. She thought about demanding to be heard. But then she thought about the look in Beckett's eyes in that cafe. The pity. The dismissal. He didn't want her. He'd made that abundantly clear. She turned and walked out of Langford Global headquarters. In the elevator descending back to ground level, she made a promise to the life growing inside her. You will never feel unwanted. I don't care what it takes. I will be enough for you. What Sloane didn't know was that the assistant who'd refused to put her through was following direct orders from Eleanor Langford, Beckett's mother. Eleanor had made it clear that her son's previous relationship was to be erased completely. Any contact from that unfortunate girl was to be blocked immediately. Beckett was in Tokyo, but even if he'd been in his office, he never would have known Sloane was there. Over the next 6 years, Sloane transformed herself and her father's business. She enrolled in advanced engineering courses while pregnant, attending night classes with her notebook in one hand and crackers for morning sickness in the other. She gave birth to Bryn on a snowy February morning with only her mother beside her. Her father was managing the garage. Beckett was probably in some boardroom somewhere, making deals, building his empire, never knowing his daughter had just entered the world. When the nurse asked for the father's name for the birth certificate, Sloane looked at her daughter's face. Bryn had Beckett's dark hair and his green eyes. She had his chin and his long fingers. Unknown, Sloane said. List the father as unknown. Because that's what he'd chosen to be. Unknown to his own child. Sloane poured her heartbreak into building something extraordinary. She took her father's modest garage and transformed it into Hartley Engineering Solutions. She combined her engineering genius with her mother's business acumen and the Remington family resources. Her first patent was filed when Bryn was 6 months old. An innovation in electric vehicle battery efficiency that caught the attention of major automotive manufacturers. Her second patent came when Bryn was 18 months old. A breakthrough in autonomous vehicle sensor technology. By the time Bryn was 3, Hartley Engineering Solutions held 8 patents essential to modern electric vehicle production. The industry was taking notice. Sloane worked during the day and was a mother at night. She attended business meetings with formula stains on her blazer that she covered with scarves. She negotiated million-dollar deals over the phone while rocking a teething baby. She was exhausted. She was overwhelmed. She was magnificent. "Mommy, why don't I have a daddy?" Bryn asked one evening when she was 4 years old. They were having dinner, just the two of them. Spaghetti with way too much Parmesan, Bryn's favorite. Sloane put down her fork. "You do have a daddy, sweetheart. He just doesn't know about you yet." Why doesn't he know? How could she explain this to a 4-year-old? How could she say that your father thought I wasn't good enough, so I never got the chance to tell him about you? It's complicated, baby. But you know what's not complicated? How much I love you. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. Bryn seemed to accept this. Am I the best thing that ever happened to Daddy too? The question broke Sloane's heart. I think you would be. If he knew you. That night, after putting Bryn to bed, Sloane made a decision. She started researching Langford Global's corporate structure. She discovered that a significant portion of shares were held by various investment firms and private equity groups. She started quietly buying them up through Remington Holdings, the family investment corporation. It took 3 years and a substantial portion of her resources, but eventually, she owned 51% of Langford Global Industries. She told herself it was just good business. Langford Global was underperforming. They needed innovation. She could provide that. But late at night, when she was honest with herself, she knew it was more than that. It was insurance. It was leverage. It was unfinished business. Meanwhile, Beckett Langford was living a very different life. He'd thrown himself into his work after ending things with Sloane. He told himself it was the right decision. He told himself his mother knew best. He told himself he'd done what was necessary for his family's legacy. He expanded Langford Global aggressively. Acquisitions, mergers, new markets. The company's value tripled under his leadership. He dated women his mother approved of. Women with the right last names, the right schools, the right connections. None of them made him laugh the way Sloane had. None of them challenged him the way she did. None of them felt like home. He broke off 2 engagements. Both times, his mother was furious. Both times, he couldn't explain why he couldn't go through with it. The truth was that every woman he met was measured against a mechanic's daughter from Chicago, and every single one came up short. By his 32nd birthday, Beckett Langford had everything money could buy. A penthouse overlooking the city. A car collection. A private jet. Global recognition as one of the youngest successful CEOs in America. He was also profoundly, desperately lonely. He thought about Sloane sometimes, late at night when the penthouse felt too big and too empty. He wondered what she was doing. If she was happy. If she ever thought about him. He never tried to find her. What would be the point? He'd made his choice 6 years ago. He had no idea that his choice had consequences he'd never imagined. He had no idea he had a daughter. And he had no idea that the woman he discarded was about to own his entire future. The collision came on a Tuesday morning in October. Beckett was in a board meeting, discussing the acquisition of a small but innovative engineering firm called Hartley Engineering Solutions. They held patents his company desperately needed for their new autonomous vehicle division. "We've been trying to acquire them for 6 months, his CFO explained. "They keep refusing. But we finally have them cornered. They need our distribution network. They'll have to sell." Beckett signed the preliminary offer documents. "Do we know anything about the owner?" "Some woman. Started with her father's garage and built it into something respectable. No major investors that we can find, which is odd given their growth rate." The CFO shrugged. "Doesn't matter. With our offer, she'd be stupid to refuse." That's when the boardroom door opened. Beckett didn't look up immediately. He was reading through the contract terms, making notes. But the sudden silence made him pause. He looked up. And saw Sloane Hartley for the first time in 6 years. She wasn't the woman he remembered. The softness was gone. The vulnerability had been replaced by steel. She wore power like armor. "Gentlemen." Her voice cut through the room like a blade through silk. "I believe you're trying to acquire something that already belongs to me." Beckett's world stopped. Sloane. Her name fell from his lips like a prayer and a curse combined. "Miss Hartley," she corrected. "Or if you prefer formality, you may call me by my proper title. Majority shareholder of Langford Global Industries." The documents slipped from Beckett's hands. "That's impossible." "Is it?" Sloane smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Tell me, Beckett, have you ever wondered who owned those shares you've been trying to buy for 3 years? The ones held by Remington Holdings?" Beckett's CFO went pale. "Remington Holdings controls 51% of our voting shares." "I'm aware." Sloane placed her leather portfolio on the conference table. "Remington is my mother's family name. My full legal name is Sloane Remington Hartley. The name you never bothered to learn in the 2 years we dated because you were too busy being ashamed of where I came from to bother asking about my full identity." The room spun. "My mother's family has been in American industry since before your great-grandfather struck his first oil well," Sloane continued. "We just don't feel the need to announce it at every opportunity. Old money rarely does." She looked directly at Beckett. "But you and your mother decided I wasn't good enough based on my father's profession and our modest apartment. You never once asked about my mother's family. You never asked about my background. You just assumed." Beckett felt like he was drowning. "Sloane, I didn't." "You didn't know." She laughed, sharp and bitter. "No, you didn't. Because you didn't care to know. I wasn't worth investigating. I was just the girl from the wrong side of town who needed to be discarded before she embarrassed the Langford name." One of the board members cleared his throat. "Miss Hartley, what exactly do you want?" "I want several things." Sloane opened her portfolio with practiced ease. "First, I want to make clear that Hartley Engineering Solutions is not for sale. Not to Langford Global, not to anyone. However, I'm willing to license 4 of my 17 patents to this company. At triple the market rate. The CFO sputtered. That's highway robbery. That's business, Sloane corrected. You need my patents. I'm offering them. Take it or leave it. What's the second thing you want? Beckett managed to ask. Your resignation as CEO. Effective immediately. The room erupted. Board members started talking over each other. Beckett just stared at her. You can't force me out, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. I own 51% of voting shares. Sloane remained standing while everyone else sat. It was a power move she'd learned from her mother. I absolutely can force you out. The board will vote my way because they prefer their positions to their loyalty to you. She glanced at the 3 board members present, who looked away guiltily. But I'm not a monster. I'm offering you a choice. She slid a document across the table. Resign voluntarily. Stay on as Chief Innovation Officer with a substantial salary. I'll license you the patents you need at the rate I specified. Or fight me, lose anyway, and watch me sell those patents to your competitors instead. Your company will be bankrupt within 2 years. If this is revenge, Beckett started. Revenge? Sloane's laugh was hollow. Revenge would be destroying everything you've built and walking away. Revenge would be making you feel a fraction of what you made me feel 6 years ago. This isn't revenge, Beckett. This is business. You've made poor decisions for 3 years, prioritizing expansion over innovation. This company deserves better leadership. And you're that leader. I've built one successful company from nothing while being a single mother. She let that sink in. I think I'm qualified to rebuild this one. Beckett searched her face for any trace of the woman he'd loved. The one who'd curled up next to him during movies. The one who'd stolen bites of his dessert and laughed when he pretended to be outraged. The one who'd looked at him like he was capable of anything. That woman was gone. He'd killed her 6 years ago in a cafe over an untouched espresso. There's something else you should know before you make your decision. Sloane's voice dropped slightly. It's only fair you have all the information. She nodded to one of her attorneys, who opened the boardroom's side door. And that's when Beckett Langford's entire world shattered completely. A little girl walked in. She couldn't have been more than 5 years old. She had Beckett's dark hair, thick and slightly wavy. She had his green eyes, bright and curious. She had his strong chin and long fingers. She clutched a stuffed rabbit and looked around the intimidating boardroom with more curiosity than fear. Mommy, is this where you work now? The child's voice was clear and sweet. Beckett couldn't breathe. His vision tunneled. The room disappeared until all he could see was this little girl who had his face. Sometimes, sweetheart. Sloane's voice transformed completely. All the steel melted away, replaced by warmth and love. Say hello to these nice people. The little girl waved. Hello. I'm Bryn Hartley. I'm 5 3/4, and my mommy is the smartest person in the whole world. Beckett's chest felt like it was being crushed. He tried to speak but no sound came out. Bryn, go with Margaret to the lounge, Sloane said gently. I'll be done soon, and then we'll get ice cream. Okay, Mommy. The little girl skipped toward the door, then paused and looked back at Beckett. Are you okay, mister? You look sad. He's fine, sweetheart, Sloane said. Go with Margaret. As the nanny guided Bryn out of the boardroom, the little girl waved cheerfully at everyone. The door closed behind them. The silence was deafening. 6 years ago, Sloane said quietly, her voice carefully controlled, I came to your office to tell you I was pregnant. Your assistant, under your mother's instructions I later learned, turned me away. She said you were in Tokyo and had left explicit instructions not to be disturbed by anyone from your past life. She opened another folder and placed a document in front of Beckett. This is Bryn's birth certificate. You'll notice the father's name is listed as unknown. Not because I didn't know who her father was, but because you made it abundantly clear you wanted no part of my life. Sloane's voice was steady, but Beckett could hear the pain underneath. I tried to tell you. You made sure I couldn't. Sloane, I didn't know. His voice cracked. I swear on everything, I didn't know you came to my office. I didn't know you were pregnant. I didn't know about Bryn. Would it have mattered? The question hung in the air like smoke. If I'd reached you that day, if you'd answered my call, would you have chosen differently? Or would your mother have convinced you I was trapping you? That I was using a baby to climb the social ladder? Beckett had no answer. He wanted to say yes, of course it would have mattered, of course he would have chosen differently. But he didn't know if that was true. 6 years ago, he'd been weak. Controlled by his mother's expectations. Desperate for approval. I'm not telling you this to hurt you, Sloane continued. I'm telling you because Bryn is starting to ask questions about her father. She deserves honest answers. And you deserve to know she exists before you make your decision about the company. She stood, smoothing her jacket. The offer stands for 48 hours. Resign gracefully, maintain a role in the company, get the patents you need, and if you want, if you prove yourself worthy, we can discuss a relationship with your daughter. Fight me, lose everything, and lose any chance of knowing Bryn. Sloane walked toward the door. Sloane, wait. Please. Beckett stood, his legs unsteady. Please. She paused but didn't turn around. I was wrong. The words felt pathetic, inadequate, but they were all he had. 6 years ago, I was a coward. I let my mother's prejudices override my own heart. I've regretted it every single day since. Regret doesn't turn back time, Beckett. I know. God, I know. He moved around the table. I want to meet her. Properly. I want to be her father, if you'll let me. I want to make this right between us. There is no us, Sloane said firmly, finally turning to face him. There's a business relationship and potential co-parenting. Nothing more. Then that's where I'll start. He stopped at a respectful distance. I'll resign. You clearly have a vision for this company, and frankly, you've outmaneuvered me at every turn. You've earned it. Sloane studied him, searching for manipulation, for angles, for weakness. She found only exhaustion and devastating honesty. My lawyer will draw up the paperwork, she said finally. As for Bryn, we start slowly. Supervised visits. You prove yourself reliable before we move forward. One mistake, one broken promise, and you're done. Whatever you need. I'll do whatever you need. She nodded once and left, leaving Beckett standing in the wreckage of his empire and his past mistakes. His CFO approached cautiously. Sir, what do you want us to do? Draw up my resignation, Beckett said, his voice hollow. She owns the company. She owns my future. And she's the mother of my child. He looked at the closed door. I'd say she holds all the cards. Now you might be thinking, what happened next? Did Beckett get to know his daughter? Did Sloane ever forgive him? Can people really change, or are we all doomed to repeat our mistakes? Stay with me, because what happens in the next 3 months will show you that redemption isn't about grand gestures. It's about showing up every single day and choosing to be better. And if you're invested in this story, if you want to know whether Beckett earns his second chance, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment telling me what you would do in Sloane's position. And share this with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late to make things right. Now let's see how a billionaire learns to be a father. That evening, Beckett sat in his penthouse, staring at his phone. He drafted and deleted 17 different messages to Sloane. Nothing felt right. What could he possibly say? Finally, he sent something simple. I accept all your terms. Please let me meet my daughter properly. I'll do whatever it takes. The response came an hour later. Saturday at 10 a.m. Lincoln Park, near the duck pond. 1 hour, supervised. Don't be late. Beckett didn't sleep that night. He researched everything he could about 5-year-olds. What they liked. How to talk to them. What were appropriate gifts. He went to 3 different toy stores on Friday, paralyzed by options. Finally, he bought a stuffed animal similar to the rabbit Bryn had been carrying. And a children's book about stars, because he remembered Sloane loved astronomy. Saturday morning, he arrived 30 minutes early. He wore jeans and a casual sweater, trying not to look like he was attending a board meeting. Sloane arrived exactly at 10 a.m., holding Bryn's hand. A woman who must have been Sloane's mother walked with them. Bryn spotted him first. That's the sad man from Mommy's work. Beckett knelt down to her level, his heart hammering. Hi, Bryn. My name is Beckett. I know. You're my daddy. Bryn tilted her head, studying him. You have my eyes. You have my eyes, he corrected softly. And you're absolutely right. Mommy says you didn't know about me. I didn't. If I had, I would have been there for every single day of your life. Bryn considered this with the seriousness of a judge. Do you like pancakes? The question caught him off guard. I do, yes. Good. Mommy makes the best pancakes. She put chocolate chips in them. Bryn looked at Sloane. Can Daddy come for pancakes sometime? Sloane's expression was carefully neutral. We'll see, sweetheart. Why don't you show Daddy the ducks? For the next hour, Beckett learned everything about his daughter. Her favorite color was purple. She loved drawing. She was learning to read. She wanted to be an astronaut or a dinosaur when she grew up, she hadn't decided yet. Every word, every smile, every laugh was a knife to his heart. 5 years of this. 5 years of birthday parties and bedtime stories and first words and first steps. Gone. Lost forever because he'd been too weak to stand up for what mattered. As the hour wound down, Bryn asked the question that destroyed him. Are you going to leave again? Beckett looked at Sloane, then back at Bryn. No, sweetheart. If your mom lets me, I'm going to be here as much as I possibly can. I've missed so much already. I don't want to miss another day. Okay. Bryn handed him a drawing she'd made while sitting on the bench. It was a stick figure family. Mommy, me, and you. We're at the park. That's where we met for Raoul. Beckett's vision blurred with tears. This is the most beautiful thing anyone's ever given me. Can I keep it? Bryn nodded solemnly. You can put it in your office. That way you remember me when you're working. I don't need a picture to remember you. He touched her cheek gently. But I'll treasure this forever. After Sloane and Bryn left, Catherine Hartley stayed behind. She's being remarkably generous, considering what you did to her, Catherine said. Her voice was cultured, refined, with an edge that suggested she didn't suffer fools. I don't deserve her generosity. No, you don't. Catherine studied him with sharp eyes. But my granddaughter deserves a father. So you'll get your chance. Don't waste it. Beckett met her gaze. I won't. I swear on everything I have, I won't. You swore things to my daughter 6 years ago too. Promises mean nothing. Action is everything. Then watch my actions. Over the next 3 months, Beckett restructured his entire life around his daughter. He resigned as CEO in a company-wide announcement that sent shockwaves through the business world. In his statement, he cited the need for fresh leadership and innovation. He didn't mention that the new CEO was the woman he'd once thrown away. Sloane stepped into leadership with a vision that immediately impressed the board. She implemented new protocols, shifted focus to innovation over expansion, and within the first month, had secured 2 major partnerships Beckett had been pursuing for years. Meanwhile, Beckett showed up for every scheduled visit with Bryn. Rain or shine, busy or not, he was there. The second visit, Bryn brought her favorite books and made him read them 17 times. He did, with enthusiasm, doing different voices for every character until she giggled uncontrollably. The third visit, she asked him to push her on the swings. Higher, Daddy, higher. She called him Daddy so naturally now, like she'd been doing it her whole life. By the fourth visit, Sloane started staying instead of leaving with Catherine. She sat on the bench, watching them interact, her expression unreadable. "You're good with her," Sloane said one afternoon as Bryn collected leaves for some elaborate game only she understood. "I'm trying," Beckett replied. "I keep reading books about parenting. I think I've memorized every child development website on the internet. She doesn't need you to be perfect." Sloane's voice was softer than it had been. "She just needs you to be consistent." "I will be." He turned to look at her. "Sloane, I know you don't owe me anything. I know what I did is unforgivable. But thank you for giving me this chance." "I'm not doing it for you," she said. "I'm doing it for Bryn. She deserves to know her father." "I know. But still. Thank you." They sat in silence, watching Bryn play. It was almost peaceful. By the 8th week, Sloane agreed to unsupervised visits. Beckett took Bryn to a children's museum. She asked approximately 7,000 questions about everything, and he loved every single one. As he was dropping her off at Sloane's townhouse afterward, Bryn hugged him tight. "I love you, Daddy." Beckett's eyes filled with tears. "I love you too, Bryn. So much." After Bryn went inside, Sloane walked him to his car. "She's happy," Sloane said. "I haven't seen her this happy in a while." "She talks about you constantly," Beckett said. "About how smart you are, how brave you are. You've done an incredible job raising her, Sloane. She's remarkable because of you." Sloane's walls cracked, just slightly. "It hasn't been easy. I know. And I'm so sorry I wasn't there." They stood in the fading daylight, the weight of 6 years between them. "My mother wants to meet Bryn," Beckett said carefully. Sloane stiffened immediately. "Absolutely not. She's in therapy. She's written you a letter apologizing for everything she did. She knows she destroyed our relationship with her prejudice." "I don't care what she's doing," Sloane said coldly. "She deemed me unworthy. She actively blocked me from telling you about your daughter. She doesn't get access to Bryn." "You're right." Beckett held up his hands. "I just wanted you to know she's trying to change. But it's your decision completely." "What did you say to her?" Sloane asked. "When you found out what she did?" "That she cost me 6 years with my daughter and the only woman I ever truly loved. That her snobbery and prejudice nearly destroyed the best thing in my life. That if she wanted any relationship with her granddaughter, she'd need to earn it." Sloane's eyes widened. "You told her about my family?" "I did." Beckett smiled grimly. Her face when she realized she'd rejected a Remington heiress for not being good enough was something I'll never forget. "My heritage doesn't make me more valuable than I was before. I know that now. I should have known it then." Beckett stepped closer. "Sloane, I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm not even asking you to give us another chance, though I want that more than anything. I'm just asking you to let me keep proving myself. To Bryn. To you." Sloane studied his face in the dimming light. "You've been good to her. You show up when you promise. You put her needs first. I'm trying to be the father she deserves. What about the man I deserve?" The question was barely a whisper. Beckett's heart stopped. The man you deserve would have fought for you 6 years ago. Would have told his mother that love matters more than social standing. Would have been there when you were terrified and pregnant and alone. Each word was a self-inflicted wound. You're right. I can't be that man. I can't go back and make the right choice then. But I can be the man who makes the right choice every day from now on. The man who puts you and Bryn first. The man who realizes he never stopped loving you. Beckett. I know I have no right to your heart. But if you'd let me, I'd spend the rest of my life earning it back. Sloane's eyes glistened. I'm scared. What if you wake up one day and decide we're still not good enough? Beckett cupped her face gently. Sloane Remington Hartley. You are the woman who built an empire while raising our daughter alone. Who turned pain into power. Who had every right to destroy me but chose integrity instead. You are extraordinary. I was a fool who couldn't see it. Pretty words. Then let me prove it with action. He pulled a key from his pocket. I sold the penthouse. I bought a house. 4 bedrooms, big yard, space for a workshop because I know you still design components yourself. It's in both our names. Equal ownership. Legally binding. If I ever hurt you again, you keep everything and I leave. Sloane stared at the key. You bought a house. I bought the potential for a home. His voice was rough with emotion. I don't expect you to love me again. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But let me be there for the bedtime stories and the morning chaos and the everyday moments. Let me be a family with you and Bryn, however that looks. And if it doesn't work? Then we co-parent peacefully, you keep the house, and I'll have no regrets because at least I tried. Before Sloane could respond, Bryn appeared at the window, pressing her face against the glass and making funny faces at them. They both laughed. She really does have you wrapped around her finger, Sloane said. Completely. Beckett looked back at Sloane. So what do you think? I think. Sloane took the key. I think we can try. 3 months later, they were living under the same roof. It wasn't perfect. There were awkward moments, uncertain boundaries, old wounds that still ached. But there were also pancake breakfasts with too many chocolate chips. Bedtime story routines where Bryn demanded both parents participate. Family game nights where Bryn made up rules that made no sense but they followed anyway. Slowly, carefully, they built something new. One evening after Bryn was asleep, Sloane found Beckett in the kitchen, looking at the drawing Bryn had made that first day in the park. He'd framed it. You really did put it in your office, Sloane said. And then I brought it here when I moved. It reminds me of what matters. They stood in the quiet kitchen, the dishwasher humming, the house settling around them. I read your mother's letter, Sloane said finally. You did? Last week. It was, surprisingly honest. She's trying. I'm not saying she deserves forgiveness, but she's genuinely trying to understand why she acted the way she did. Sloane nodded slowly. Bryn asked again about meeting her grandmother. That's your decision. I know. Sloane looked at him. Maybe a supervised meeting. Short. See how it goes. Thank you. I'm not doing it for Eleanor. I'm doing it for Bryn. Children deserve to know their family. Even the imperfect parts. Especially the imperfect parts. That's how they learn that people can grow. Beckett moved closer. You've taught me so much about forgiveness. I haven't forgiven you yet, Sloane said, but there was no bite in her words. I'm still working on it. Take all the time you need. I'll be here. The air between them shifted, charged with possibility. Beckett. Sloane's voice was uncertain. Yes. I'm scared. Of believing in this. Of trusting you again. Of letting myself feel what I used to feel. I know. He didn't touch her, giving her space. I'm scared too. Scared I'll mess this up. Scared I don't deserve this second chance. Scared that one day you'll wake up and realize you can do so much better. That's not how I see it. How do you see it? Sloane took a breath. I see a man who's shown up every day for 3 months. Who put his daughter's needs above his ego. Who restructured his entire life to be present. Who's in therapy working on his issues. Who treats me like an equal partner, not someone he's trying to win back like a prize. She stepped closer. I see someone who's becoming the man I always believed he could be. Beckett's heart was thundering. Sloane. I'm not ready to go back to what we were. But I think I'm ready to explore what we could be. She kissed him. Soft, tentative, testing. Beckett's hands came up to frame her face gently, kissing her back with 6 years of longing and regret and hope. When they pulled apart, both were breathless. We take this slow, Sloane said. As slow as you need. And if it doesn't work, then we remain friends and co-parents. But Sloane, I think it's going to work. Over the next year, they built their life together piece by piece. Eleanor met Bryn in a carefully supervised setting. The transformation in Eleanor was remarkable. She'd spent months in therapy confronting her prejudices and insecurities. She apologized to Sloane with genuine humility. I was threatened by what I didn't understand, Eleanor said. You were genuine and real, and that terrified me because I've spent my whole life worried about appearances. I'm sorry. Sloane's acceptance was measured but real. This is for Bryn. You'll have to earn anything beyond that. Eleanor proved herself through consistent, thoughtful actions. She showed up when she said she would. She respected Sloane's boundaries. She genuinely tried to understand what she'd done wrong. At Hartley Engineering Solutions and Langford Global, the partnership flourished. Sloane's innovation combined with Beckett's industry connections created something powerful. Stock prices soared. Industry recognition followed. But more importantly, the family thrived. Bryn started kindergarten with both parents at her first day. She drew family portraits that now included Grandma Eleanor. She was confident, loved, secure. On their 1-year anniversary of living together, Sloane discovered she was pregnant. She was terrified to tell Beckett, old trauma surfacing. What if history repeated itself? But when she finally gathered the courage, Beckett's reaction was everything she'd hoped for that first time. He cried. He held her. He got down on his knees and spoke to her stomach. I get to do this right, he whispered. All of it. Every appointment, every midnight craving, every moment. Thank you for giving me this chance. Bryn was beside herself with excitement about being a big sister. 9 months later, Hayes Langford Hartley was born. Beckett was there for every moment. The labor, the birth, the first cry, the first feeding. When they brought Hayes home, Bryn held her baby brother with careful reverence. We're a real family now, she announced. We've always been a real family, sweetheart, Sloane corrected gently. I know. But now we're a real family that matches the other families at school. And that brought us to the morning I told you about at the beginning. The pancake breakfast, the flower crowns, the beautiful chaos of a family that was broken and remade. Beckett and Sloane stood in their kitchen, watching their children, marveling at the life they'd built from the ashes of their mistakes. Do you ever regret it? Beckett asked. Giving me another chance. Sloane considered this honestly. I regret the pain. I regret the 6 years lost. I regret that Bryn's early years didn't have you in them. But I don't regret where we are now. We're not who we were. We're better. Stronger. We are. Though I'll spend my life trying to make up for that lost time. I know. And Beckett? I love you. Not the boy who left me. Not the man you were. but the man you chose to become. His eyes closed briefly, accepting the gift of her words. I love you. I never stopped, but now I love you in ways I wasn't capable of before. Later that morning, as they sat around the breakfast table, Bryn made an announcement. At school, we have to draw our families. I'm drawing all of us. Mommy, Daddy, Hayes, and Grandma Eleanor. Because Miss Jackson says families are people who love each other even when it's hard. Sloane and Beckett's eyes met across the table. Miss Jackson is a very wise woman, Beckett said. The wisest, Sloane agreed, squeezing his hand. Outside, autumn painted the world in gold and amber. Inside, a family that had been shattered and rebuilt shared pancakes and second chances. It wasn't the fairy tale Sloane had imagined at 23. It was something better. Something earned. Something real. Because the truth is, life isn't about avoiding mistakes. It's about what we do after we make them. Beckett Langford rejected the woman he loved because he was weak, because he valued the wrong things, because he didn't know his own worth or hers. He lost 6 years with his daughter. He lost the trust of the woman he loved. He lost his position, his pride, his certainty. But he gained something more valuable. He gained wisdom. Humility. Perspective. He learned that love isn't about grand gestures. It's about showing up. Every day. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. He learned that your worth isn't measured by your bank account or your last name. It's measured by how you treat people when you have nothing to gain from them. He learned that the people we underestimate today might be the ones who define our tomorrow. And Sloane learned something too. She learned that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing to build something new from the ruins of what was broken. She learned that protecting your heart is important, but so is having the courage to open it again when someone proves they deserve it. She learned that strength isn't about never needing anyone. It's about knowing you can stand alone but choosing to stand together. So let me ask you this. What's the mistake in your past that needs healing? Who have you underestimated? What second chance are you too afraid to take? Because here's the truth. We're all Beckett sometimes. Making choices based on fear instead of love. Valuing the wrong things. Letting other people's opinions override our own hearts. And we're all Sloane sometimes. Carrying pain we didn't deserve. Building walls to protect ourselves. Wondering if we can ever trust again. But we're also all capable of change. Of growth. Of becoming better than we were. If this story moved you, if it made you think about your own life, your own choices, your own second chances, then do me a favor. Hit that like button right now. Subscribe to Mr. Stephen's Stories for more powerful tales about love, redemption, and the courage to change. Share this with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late to make things right. And drop a comment. Tell me, do you believe people can truly change? Tell me about a second chance you gave or received. Tell me how this story made you feel. Because stories like this matter. They remind us that we're all human. All flawed. All capable of both terrible mistakes and beautiful redemptions. Remember this. The right person will choose you not once, but every day after. And sometimes, the people we lose come back to us. Not because we deserve them, but because love, real love, is stronger than mistakes. I'm Mr. Stephen, and I'll see you in the next story. Until then, choose love. Choose growth. Choose second chances. Because you never know. The person you underestimate today might be the one holding your future tomorrow. And the mistake you made yesterday doesn't have to define who you become.